understanding how our body works is very important to, getting the best results possible from exercise and making sure that we stay in good health and understand how that can benefit us. Just to kind of explain this, there are a couple different systems of parts of the body that are used when we're exercising. The most notable are going to be the skeletal, muscular, nervous, and cardiovascular systems. And we'll be going over each of those today and, how they benefit us and how they change through exercise. So first up, the skeletal system is actually kind of made of two major parts. The first is called the axial, and this is basically all the bones that are meant to protect your internal organs. So that's your spine, skull, ribs, everything like that. Then you have your appendicular system, and this is all of your limbs and most of what you're going to be moving in exercise to make sure that you're controlling your body and you're able to move around. Your bones are constantly remodeling over time, and sections are being broken down and rebuilt. But as well with exercise, this can help increase how much your bodies are, building new muscle, so that over time, muscle can actually get stronger as a result of doing exercise. If you find someone who is, 200 pounds of muscle, they probably also have really strong bones to handle that. As well, bones are basically the structure of our body, but they allow through movement by their connection to muscles through tendons. And then as well, there are also ligaments that connect bones to other bones. And both those are technically considered to be part of the skeletal system. Even though it's not a bone, they are considered to be skeletal material. But with their connection to the muscular system, there's a couple different things that muscles can do. And these are the three types of muscle action. The first is like a concentric muscle action, and this is basically your muscles bunching up and tensing. And so that's if you're doing a push-up or if you're curling something, it's the motion where you're pushing away and you feel like you have, that force that you are exerting. Then there is the eccentric, and this is when you're releasing that tension from the muscles. And this is also still a section where your muscles are being used. So for example, if you can't do a full pull-up, you're not able to do that. What you can try instead to, still strengthen those muscles as an option would be a negative pull-up, where you're going through the eccentric motion, you're going down, and you're just trying to slow that. And because that's still a type of muscle action, it's just the eccentric portion. Making sure that you have a slow, controlled eccentric will still strengthen muscles. And the last one is isometric. And this is your muscle's ability to kind of hold in place and maintain structure without moving. So, for example, a plank, basically your entire body is isometric. But even in a single exercise, you'll often get to where, there's basically all three are used in conjunction. So, for example, for a squat, your in terms of isometric, just maintaining structure, your abs are kind of making sure that your body stays upright, while, you're going to go through the eccentric when you're going down and lowering your body, and then the concentric when you're pushing back up in order to, get back to the standing position. As well, there are a couple different muscle fiber types, and the percentage of these that you have is largely going to depend on genetics. It can be marginally affected by training, but this is pretty much set from birth, and is also one of many reasons why you should avoid comparing, your progress to someone else in the gym. That is going to be type 1. These are slow twitch fibers, and they require less energy, but their total maximum output is a lot lower. Then there's type 2A, and these are your fast twitch fibers, and these are going to take a little bit more energy for your body to start activating, but are a lot better at short bursts of speed. And then finally, there's the type 2X, and these require the most energy and are even faster than a type 2A. And this is, like if you're doing a sprint, you'll find that, world class sprinters have a larger percentage of type 2X and type 2A than type 1. While like a distance runner will have more of a type 1 fiber than type 2. For weightlifting, I think what I've heard is it's like preferably 60% type 2 fibers and then like 30% or so type 1. But don't quote me on that, but that is just one of the things that can obviously be different from person to person. Most people are very close to like 50-50 in terms of how many type 1 and type 2 fibers they have, and then they'll have like a smaller proportion of type 2X. But as well, our muscles are also broken up into different sections of our body and what those do. So for example, for like the blue and the green, I'm just going to kind of lump these together as the lower body. This is responsible for, pushing up and being able to, support your body as you're standing. So that's your squats, deadlifts, all our lower body exercises are going to affect these in some way. We go to the purple with our glutes. These are responsible for stabilizing the hips and also allowing our waist to move forward in like almost a thrusting motion. So, like if you're at a squat where kind of your hips go back and then forward, that's a lot of what your glutes are responsible for in that motion. The abs, kind of lighter purple here, those are of course responsible for you being able to, do a crunch and bring your body really close together or maintain a strong posture while standing up, especially if you're, holding onto weight, everything like that. This kind of almost pink red section here is the back. This is responsible for basically every motion where you are pulling things towards your body. You'll use the back in some way. So that's, pull-ups, rows, everything like that. The exception is kind of the traps. Yes, that is actually the name for it, is the traps up here. If you want to work your traps, that's more of your ability to like shrug your shoulders and bring your shoulders like close to your head and kind of tense there. Whereas the rest of these muscles are more for bringing like your arms back to your sides or like close to your chest or coming down from above, that kind of thing, especially with resistance. So your ability to pull yourself up, pull things towards you, a lot of that is going to use the back mostly, even if, the arms are also somewhat used there. The back muscles are normally a little bit stronger, but a lot of people just don't necessarily realize that they're being used. The chest, which is kind of the red here, and all these more orange ones in the arm, those are more responsible for pushing motions. And, anytime you want to move something away from your body in some direction, those muscles are going to activate and helping you, do that, and either like curl things or like a push up, or like the shoulders are responsible for being able to raise your arm up to the side or in front of you. And then the chest muscles are somewhat used in pressing motions, but specifically they are used for basically bringing your arms closer to the center of your body. So that's why, just as a broad example, something like a dumbbell bench press, where you're using two dumbbells and then you're going to push them and they go kind of close to the center of your body, is generally better for working the chest than like a straight up straight up bench press with like a barbell or a push up, where you have a set position that your arms are in, because it allows for more motion for your, arms and hands to go towards and away from the center of your body. But that is kind of how each muscle section of your body works and what it generally does. There are exceptions, of course, and motions we can point out, but as a general rule, that's kind of what these all do. Now, with the different types of muscle, it's also worth mentioning that there are different energy systems that your body uses to fuel muscles in different activities. And all of these are basically a different form of fuel for your muscle, but your body has a limited amount of each. So, for example, the preferred source of energy for your body is, or your muscles for short-term bursts, is ATP. And this is for anything that's very explosive. So that's like a sprint, for example. You'll notice that if you try like sprinting all out, it's very hard to keep going at the same speed for more than like 6 to 10 seconds. At some point in there, you're going to fall off, and it's because you straight up just run out of ATP in your body to go for a maximum effort push right away. And that's where then you kind of go into more the short-term energy sources. And that's kind of lasts for like the up to like 60 seconds of activity. So this is where most of weightlifting is in here, especially for kind of the rep ranges I recommend to you. But like if you're trying to do like a 1 rep max, a lot of times that's solely ATP. And beyond that, anything beyond 2 minutes is almost always going to be oxidative energy systems, which is aerobic. Oxygen is less required. And so this is like if you're doing long distance running, that is the energy source that's going to be used for that. But of course, just depending on the activity, you're going to get into different ranges of how long you're doing something or how much effort is being put in. And that's going to require different energy systems. And then the efficiency of your ability to do that will be kind of mostly genetically determined by the types of muscle fibers that you have, as well as just practice and building up, your endurance at different levels. Muscles, though, are controlled by the nervous system. This is how we, our brain is the one that tells our muscles to move in a certain way. And the way that our muscles get this connection is from our central nervous system, which is like our brain, which then sends signals through the peripheral nervous system. This is like your nerves throughout your body. And then that connects two muscles with like a couple different sections. There is one specific thing that I think is worth mentioning. This is called the Golgi tendon organ. It is basically a nerve everywhere that your muscles connect to a tendon. And this acts as like a safety measure for your body to avoid hurting itself during exercise. So the Golgi tendon organ registers how hard your muscle is working. And if it's close to outputting 100% effort, every single muscle fiber is bunching up and being used in a concentric motion, it will forcibly prevent you from doing that. But through practice, as you strengthen your muscle fibers and your tendons through exercise, over time your Golgi tendon organ will have kind of a larger threshold of where it's willing to work before it goes, okay, we need to stop pushing any harder because we might cause damage if we do this. But that is one thing that can potentially limit the maximum force that you could output, is your body just going, hey, like we will actually hurt ourselves if we work this hard. But there is one other thing that is very important for strength, and that is the motor units. This is basically every section of your actual muscle that neurons are activating. And they are activated in order of like type 1, then type 2A, and then type 2X as more energy is required. But as well, your body generally doesn't want to use 100% of your muscle at any one point in time. And so this is something where, especially when you're a beginner, you may notice rapid progress in terms of how much weight you can do for different exercises as you consistently practice. And a big part of that is that your body is basically getting a better sense of, oh, okay, like we're increasing the total motor unit activation of how many muscle fibers our neurons are willing to activate. Whereas, someone who is an advanced weightlifter, they might be using closer to 90% of all of their muscles in their body um, at once. Whereas if you're a beginner, it's going to be a much lower percentage. But that is one reason why people who are new to the gym will see really big increases in how much they can do very quickly, is because it's literally just your body adjusting to actually being used and recruiting different muscle fibers over time, and making sure that all the muscle fibers are firing at the same time. Through practice, this is where you can reach a point where very quickly you go from your type 1s being activated to your type 2As being activated, where it's almost simultaneous, and that is ideal for pushing as hard as you can. Lastly, everything in our body is of course fueled by oxygen. We need oxygen to function, and the cardiovascular system is what gets oxygen to different parts of our body. But as well, there is also a limit to how much oxygen different tissues are actually used to using, and that is called the oxygen uptake. And through practice, through cardiovascular exercise especially, over time we can increase what is referred to as the VO2 max, which is the maximum amount of oxygen that your heart can pump through your body and that your body is able to utilize at any point in time. But as well, as you improve your VO2 max and you practice cardio and you push your heart in ways that are beneficial to it through exercise, that increases your body's ability to be efficient with the oxygen that is being given and how much it's able to push, with a lower heart rate. So that's why, generally speaking, if you're looking for cardiovascular health, VO2 max is actually very hard to measure. It normally is done in like a lab where you'll put on a mask that measures how much oxygen you're breathing in while you're like running on a treadmill. It's kind of miserable experiment, not gonna lie. But the next best metric that I think you can use is to look at your resting heart rate from a heart rate monitor when you're not doing any activity. And as you do more cardiovascular activity, your resting heart rate will over time generally drop up to a certain point. At some point, I mean, if it's 0 beats per minute, you're dead. So it's not quite that extreme, but if you're in like the 50s or 60s, that's generally extremely healthy. And as well, if you're seeing that your resting heart rate is at that point and you're actually doing cardio, a lot of the benefits that pretty much every study has seen is that there are significantly lower rates for people who do regular cardio in any type of cardiovascular disease. So, anything that's related to that, that's one of the biggest sources of death in America, at least. General mortality, just in general, and also just a general decrease in how often people get sick if they are active in doing cardio. So, obviously, there's a lot of changes that exercise can make to the body as you're doing it. So, just to kind of list them out again, bones and tendons can both get stronger by consistently exercising. That makes sure that they maintain, a lot of strength over time. If you exercise and do strength training versus not, it's not even close how much stronger your bones are. I'm talking like someone who is 60 years old and has been active probably has stronger joints than someone who is like 30 or 40 years old and completely inactive. It can also increase the muscle fiber size and the count of muscle fibers that you have in your body over time. This is, one thing that we look for in changing kind of our physique is to make sure that we're building up the muscles that we want to in different areas. Because of both of these, it can help reduce chance of injury from most things that can happen to you, just by virtue of your body becoming more resilient over time from this. we can improve the motor unit activation and how much of our muscle we can use at any point in time for different purposes, as well as just our strength in general. Can decrease almost every metric of mortality and sickness. And exercise also, of course, has a number of mental benefits that I'm not going to go into as much detail here for the nervous system. But those include, clarity of your thought, much better memory and recall, help regulating your hormones, and avoiding any acute symptoms of anxiety, depression, and, other mental struggles that a lot of people have. So, it's almost like exercise is good for you. I can't believe it's healthy. The thing that everyone says is good for you. These are the reasons why it is actually good for your body, as well as I think what a lot of us are also here for, which is that exercising can make us look hot as fuck.